Hello everyone and welcome to the show. It's Trevor Stockwell with you today, along with my guest, Rebecca Schauer. Rebecca helps highly ambitious women business owners and executives to break free from cycles of overstressing and stress eating. And men are susceptible to that from time to time as well. So guys, don't switch off. And you'll know a lady probably that's had issues with this at some point, or you can help her navigate and avoid getting to this position. Rebecca's a transformational life wellness coach and a registered dietitian. She helps clients have a healthy relationship with food and feel better about themselves so that they can perform at their best in business and definitely beyond that. So lots we can learn from her. So welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us, Rebecca Schauer.
Thank you for having me, Trevor. I'm very happy to be here.
It's brilliant to have the opportunity to chat with you and learn from you. And also, you've walked an interesting journey yourself, haven't you? Which we'll sort of touch on a little bit as we start. But yeah, you're not talking from theory in lots of different ways. You've actually walked the path which you can then puts you in a good position to then help other people as well. So however you want to do it, just kick us off with a bit of your journey, some of the highs and lows, if you're happy to share. That's where you are, really.
Sure. So basically, I went through my own eating disorder when I was studying to be a dietitian in college, and that's when it all started. And so I always thought after I got out of the stress of school and, was living a different lifestyle than what, anyone who's gone to college or gotten, a degree, post high school, that it can get stressful, right? And the way that I dealt with my stress was over exercising, which led to binge eating. So it was a way to take care of myself, which it always is. That's what our coping mechanisms are. We're trying to do good for ourselves, trying to care for ourselves, but unfortunately, especially when they become habitual, they start to, harm us more than help us. Mm-hmm. And so that was my coping mechanism in college. I would get up really early and go to the gym. It helped me set the day up, so to speak. But then because I wasn't eating enough essentially during the day, it kind of kicks in biological mechanisms within your brain, like your survival mechanisms, which leads to the binging behavior, which is very common for women who have gone on restrictive diets to lose weight and things like that. So, and then emotions play into that too. And we start to use food as a way to cope. It can be triggered emotionally or biologically. Mine was more a biological trigger. I just wasn't eating enough. And that's so common with, restrictive diets as well. So if there's any women listening that they've gone on a diet that seemed to then cause them to want to eat more, that's actually really normal. And it's one of the things that often causes women to yo-yo diet and whatnot. So that was how it all started for me. And I always thought, once I got out of school and I had less stress and was just kind of in a normal, working routine and enjoying life once again. And that was another thing. I wasn't really enjoying life. It was all about school and grades and then dealing with my eating disorder. So, so what happened was I left school and it didn't get better because once these behavior patterns start, they can become very habitual. And even though we want, we try to willpower our way out of them, and we can want in our heart so much to get out of those behaviors, they have a grip on us no matter how much we try. And so that is what led me down this path to kind of use my own struggle with food in addition to my knowledge as a dietitian and the various, coaching tools and processes that I've learned over time to help other women that are struggling with their food and their bodies in similar ways.
Yeah, it's interesting in the sense where you put it. I was thinking for people that would have seen you while you were in college, hitting the gym every day, they probably think, wow, she's really dedicated. She's got everything together. She's healthy. She's doing exercise. But that's just part of a symptom, as you say, that somewhere there's an imbalance. And then sort of later came the binge eating and things like that. And I guess then the emotion is, you've not got things balanced, but you're not sure how to change it, or what's around the emotions tied with the binge eating, really? Because if you've hit the gym and you've done, burnt so many calories off, then later in the day you kind of overeat, or you feel you have to recoup from the exercise you've done. What's the emotion around that?
Yeah. So, and that's what sets you in the cycle. So basically, I was diagnosed with exercise bulimia. So it's just this cycle of you overeat, you binge, and then you have this compulsion where, some women purge through vomiting. I couldn't do that. That's sometimes the route that women go.
Mm.
So my route was exercise. Like I literally was obsessed with having to exercise every day, especially if I binged in that day or the day before. And so it became this compulsive loop, you could say, of binging and then hating yourself and feeling guilty and regretful and frustrated by it, and then just the emotions of, I have to fix this, kind of, I can't be with this, so I must go exercise really hard and take care of it. And I think we can get in patterns. Mine was a very disordered relationship with food, my pattern. But I think, and I especially see this in clients, not only with their food, but in other areas of their life where we're trying to control, right? And by trying to control our emotions through certain behaviors, we just spiral downward more than we really help ourselves. And so yeah, the emotions for me, and I know for the women that I work with, and I know for men too, that because women aren't the only ones that get disordered eating, men definitely get it too. It's just not as prevalent. But it's often just that frustration and those icky feelings of shame and guilt and negativity towards yourself. Like, I know better, I should be doing better, but I feel like I can't control this. It's a very much an out of control feeling.
Yeah. Thankfully, you're here to shed light for everyone listening, that you're either at some stage of going through that, or hopefully you've not got there and you're going to avoid it. But chances are you're crossing paths regularly with people that are trying to balance everything, particularly entrepreneurs, business owners. We carry a lot more weight on our shoulders ourselves, I think, from expectations that we put on ourselves. If we don't do it, who's going to do it? That sort of mentality can kick in as well, and just add to the pressure. But yeah, there's hope, isn't there? There's definitely hope. You've come out the other side of that. Now you're in a good place where you've been helping other people. And it's the high achievers, the executives as well. So the high stress roles that you've helped people navigate through to come out the other side, to get the balance of being, healthy, enjoying food, using it for the right reason and enjoying it, but also staying in the right balance so you can focus your energy on the business activities and things outside of work as well. So that's good. So there is hope for everybody listening. There is hope.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
You mentioned about there's like the destructive cycle. We strive, then we're stressed about it, then we sort of deprive ourselves, and then we end up burnt out or depleted one way or another. What would be for people? What would be some of the telltale signs for people that either, as I say, cross paths with other people that are suffering this, or maybe they're at the early stages themselves? How could we self-diagnose? Am I getting into a place where I've developed the wrong sort of behaviour that's actually not helping me? Any sort of any tips
Yeah.
on that?
I think one of the best things you can do is always tune into your emotions and your feelings. I always tell my clients our emotions are our compass to tell us where our mind is, because our emotions are basically a manifestation from our thoughts. If we have thoughts that create these feelings in our body that we describe as anxiety or sadness or guilt or whatever, or happiness, they can be the positive emotions as well, but there's always a thinking process that's creating that. And so one of the first things you can do to see if you're kind of going into that, what I call the strive, stress, deprive, deplete, survive cycle that we can spin in, we want to fix them because they don't feel good. And one of the ways we fix them is striving more by taking more action. And we can do this in our business. Like maybe we're not getting a result, in our business the way that we want to, or maybe we're not being as productive, or whatever standard we've put on ourselves, and we don't feel good about that. And rather than really understanding it and just allowing ourselves to feel the feelings, process the feelings, and understand what's really happening in our internal process and in our minds that might be creating that, limiting beliefs, whatever, instead of really going inside and understanding, we just take more action, we strive more, and the more we do that, the more we kind of spiral down. And so I guess that first thing that people can do is just pay attention to what they're feeling. So often, especially the uncomfortable feelings, we want to escape them, distract ourselves from them, ignore them. And when we do that, and I do believe that really feeling feelings is a skill. It's not something that we're typically taught unless we had very like emotionally intelligent parents and things, or people in our lives that really understood feelings and emotions. Generally, we as young children are kind of taught to escape our emotions, or that they're wrong, or we need to judge them and they're not valid. And so we can have all these difficulties in terms of our relationship with our emotions that can be very problematic in terms of how we do everything in our life, basically. So that would be the first thing, like getting to understand your feelings, getting to understand what they're actually telling you, and because they have important information for you. And then also not judging them, they're valid. You don't have to be ashamed for certain feelings that you feel, or make them wrong, or tell yourself you shouldn't be feeling them. They're just what they are. They have really no meaning until you give them a meaning. So let them provide you some information, and then from that place decide, you go into your mind and be like, okay, what's the story that's creating this? If I'm feeling frustrated, if I'm feeling super stressed and anxious, if I'm feeling ashamed about something or guilty about something, what is the story going on in your mind that is creating those feelings? And that's really good information, because once you have that information, you can begin to work with it and try to create something else from that.
Definitely. Yeah. It's like, it's almost the realization we can think about what we think about. And that helps to bring self-awareness, doesn't it? And I think, like you say, everyone's geared a lot more to activity nowadays. I think there is less the pausing, reflecting, just taking time out. And I think, it's easy to just get on like a mental treadmill of, if I feel a bit funny, if I feel a bit that I'm not achieving what I want to, I've just got to be busier. I've got to put more effort, more work in. That's an alternative to sort of comfort eating, isn't it? Just trying to deal with the feelings that are trying to flag up that something's not right. But I like the way you put it. It's like, if we're not addressing, or firstly conscious of what those feelings are and why they're there, but also if we address them the wrong way, we become, there's a cycle of destruction that you say, that is easy to get onto once you've started, but it can be harder to get off, particularly if we try and do it ourselves. We find it's easier to get external help one way or another, to just get an extra perspective on where you are, on what's going on, and just a bit more support as well, I think, which is kind of what you provide coaching as well, don't you, to help people through that, through a coaching program, if that's the route that they want to take. I'm a big believer in coaching. I'm a coach myself, so I understand the value of transformation it can bring. And it starts with the thoughts, doesn't it? Like you say, what am I thinking about? Why am I feeling this way? It's because I've thought about something, and I've not handled it the best way that I could. What would you say would be, for business owners that are listening, because of the levels of stress, or even if they're in the workplace, and there are levels of stress, or just everyday life, I guess, what would be some of the things, any particular sort of tactics or hacks that you could suggest that would help us deal with stress better? suppose you've covered a key one, which is what are you thinking about? What are your emotions telling you? Any other sort of steps that people can just stay aware of that will help them sort of identify when they've started to get too stressed?
Yes. I really believe that having a self-care practice as a routine to basically set yourself up for staying out of those really stressful emotional states is the best thing. Even when you're feeling good, still do your self-care so that you can step into what might be thrown at you in a really empowered state. And then so whatever your self-care is for you, in terms of having fun, enjoying life. For me, it's, music, it's nature, it's just relaxation time, reading, writing, and journaling, talking to really close friends, all those great things to, stay in that relaxed place, routinely, not as like a nice to have, but as like an essential part of your day. That would be one thing. So, basically self-care in that way. And then tools, for in the moments of stress, I call it like things that you can pull out of your pocket, so to speak, and breathing. Anyone who's, done meditation or yoga or mindfulness practices, or, however it might be, just breathing is the most powerful thing, deep breathing, because it turns off our sympathetic nervous system, which is that stress response. It's our fight, flight, freeze,
Yeah.
that we can get caught into, that makes us want to just keep taking action and escape, basically, those uncomfortable feelings. The way that we step out of that is literally our breath, because those deep oxygenating breaths are what activate our parasympathetic nervous system, like our peace, P, you can remember it by parasympathetic, P, and peace, breathing and oxygenating your body, your brain, and just relaxing all those internal mechanisms in your nervous system. You immediately are going to be able to think more clearly. You're going to feel it inside. You're going to feel more neutrality in terms of your emotions, more calmness, more peace. And from that place, those pauses, in those moments of stress, you can um, make more improved decisions, more responsive versus reactive decisions towards what's true for you. Because oftentimes when we're taking actions from the striving, what I call the striving cycle, that we were just talking about, it's actions to try to escape negative feelings, and they're not our true choices. And so when we can stay more in our parasympathetic nervous system and keep our brain calm and our body relaxed, and use our breath as that tool, as our number one tool to do that, from that place we can really respond from our truth. And when we can respond from what is true, or sometimes, from a more spiritual element, from our heart, whatever it might be, we live a much better life the more that we can do that. We're being true to ourselves and all of that great stuff that we want to, and true to the people in our life, and um, living more authentically, which I just see as like living from your heart.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really good. The two key things, as you were saying that, kind of just coming to mind really is we control our thinking and we control our breath. Both of those, like, we don't need external help for that really. Maybe a prod now and again to get us to think the right things, but it's very empowering what you're sharing, because it's stuff we can do. As strange as that may sound, but when you're in a stressful situation, you can feel almost stuck, and not really know what to do, or feel you need external help, but they're just not available at that time or whatever. But what you're sharing is really good, because it's actually, Rebecca said, right, I need to be careful what I think about, because that's affecting my emotions. And when I'm in a stressful time, I just need to change the way that I'm breathing. It's really good, really good. I've discovered for myself, some of the times when I'm in, it's not so much now, thankfully, but when I've been in really stressful environments, where you can just walk away for 5-10 minutes. And like you say, you just collect your thoughts. You're out of that, what do I need to do next? I'm up against the deadline. I need to get this done. You just pause for a second. And then you can come back into the same environment, but you've changed because your perspective's changed. It's powerful stuff. This for everybody listening. It if you don't know and you haven't tried this, it can sound really simple. It's like, oh, it's my thoughts. Oh, it's my breathing. It's like, but when you actually do it, it makes such a difference. It really does. And as you know, because that's how you help clients, isn't it? Amongst other things, you do a lot more, but just too simple. I say simple in the sense of they're easy to apply, not always easy to do, and not always easy to remember. I think that's the challenge that I've found. Knowing stuff and doing it is not always the same thing, is it? A lot of the time, but at least we're armed with that information that you're sharing. This stuff works, and if we actually start developing a habit where we put that into practice where we need to, ideally, we schedule our lives so that we don't end up in those stressful situations too much. Certain level of stress we hear is good for us, but not to the point where we're handling our emotions wrong. We're getting stressed and depleted, as you say. But when there are those times, we can face them because we think, right, Rebecca's armed us with some good tools, some good techniques to actually change how we think, how we feel about something. Really good stuff. I like this. One of the other things you touched on as well, which would be nice to just dig into a little bit, is the feeling of being worthy or of accepting who we are. That can also be a trigger for binge eating or somehow going into the coping mechanisms that aren't helpful. How would you help people rediscover that they are worthy? What are some? That's a big question. We don't have enough time to delve into it completely, but just what would be some of maybe the first steps that would help people get focused back and realize that they are special, they are unique?
Yeah. So I think self-worth is such a huge thing. It was in my journey to really, own my worth in all areas of life. So I think it really plays into our stress, because if we don't feel worthy of what we want to have in our life, whether it's a certain relationship or a business or a career or even a certain car that we desire to have, but we judge ourselves, oh, we shouldn't want that, why I'm not worthy of something like that. There's all these stories basically that we tell ourselves from the programming that we might have received over the course of our life, right? So um to really begin, if you struggle with feeling worthy of the goals and desires that you have, like you feel like you have to always be proving yourself that you're not good enough, or you feel like you have to put in so many hours or so much effort to earn it first, or that you have to feel like you're defending yourself, in some way to have it. um it's those are indicators that you got to own your worth, and that you are deserving of whatever it is you're trying to achieve or have or be. And I think the first thing that I always teach my clients, if they really are struggling with self-worth stuff, is to remember who you are. And by that I mean, you were born into this world as like this neutral being, right? You were this little innocent baby that, and whatever you believe about yourself or your worthiness is stuff that people tossed on top of you, the programming,
Yeah.
the the belief systems that were implanted in you. But that's not who you really are. You are still that innocent, pure, amazing, perfect little being underneath it all. And so you get to decide then, that, oh yeah, because that's my essence, that's really who I am. I am worthy of what I desire, in my heart. And once again, we have to understand what our true choices are, because it can get a little clouded, and we can get confused if we're in the stress response. We don't always because then we're trying to take action to get away from uncomfortable feelings. But when we're in that truth, that relaxed place, that intuition, whatever, our heart space, We hear our truth, we know our truth, and we just have to decide in those moments, I'm worthy of this. I don't have to prove, earn, defend. Yes, we might have to gain skills to achieve what we want to have, or do things and be do those human things that we have to do to achieve, but we don't have to earn it. It's meant for us.
Yeah.
And I think if people can really distinguish the goals that they're going after in their life, whether they're coming from a place of having to prove or earn it versus I just want this because I would love to have it. Whether you're owning your worth or not. Like if it's a feeling like I have to earn it, I have to prove myself or prove to other people, it might not be a true goal for you. But if it's coming from a place of I just would love to have this. I would love to have this in my life. I would love to have this experience. This is meant for me. Then you're going at it from a place of I'm owning my worth.
It's really good. Yeah, really good. So let's dig in a little bit to the nutritional side of things, because you're a dietitian. There must be, I'm guessing, I don't know, certain foods to have, foods to avoid, or is it more time of day, amount that we have? Any tips on how we could maybe handle things? I guess when we're stressed, heading for the biscuit jar is not the best and optimal way of responding. Or is it? Maybe it is.
Well, that's actually a really, really great question, because it can be until it becomes a habit.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so stress and emotional eating, it can be a great way that we try to take care of ourselves, right? But where it becomes a problem is when it's always our thing, and then it starts to affect our life, whether it's through gaining weight, or whether it causes us to feel bad about ourselves, or causes us to procrastinate on what we really need to face, whatever it might be. So it can be, you have to know where your action is coming from. Is the eating of this food, is this being loving to myself, or is it actually being harming to myself? And only you as an individual can decide in those moments what it is. But from the nutrition perspective, I'm going to probably just repeat what every nutritionist or dietitian would ever say. The more natural you can eat in terms of whole foods, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, less processed meats. If you're a meat eater, the closer to nature you can eat, the better it's always going to be for you. A lot of the diet prescriptions or fads or whatever people are telling you, it's just the what I always tell people, the closer to nature you can get, the better. And then you have to use your intuition. I really believe that a lot, even though there's a lot of great things in our culture and society in terms of government recommendations to eat like this, or there's diet gurus out there telling you to eat this type of diet and not eat those foods. I really believe a person has freedom with food, which is what I teach, and really has the most sustainable, peaceful relationship with food, and the healthiest relationship with food, not only for their mind and emotions, but also for their body, when they trust themselves with food, and they can get to that place of just eating in total connection with their body. Because what is a super healthy and amazing way of eating for me could be totally the wrong way of eating for you. So we each have to, and this is what I basically teach women what to do or how to do. We were born into the world being able to do this, being very connected with our bodies, and just, this is what I want to eat, this is how much I want to eat, and then I don't. But once we kind of get past that toddler stage, we start to be told, this is how you need to eat, from parents, from caregivers, from especially from culture as we grow up, from the diet industry, and we lose that connection with ourselves and also with our bodies as being the guide to really tell us how to eat. So, there's sometimes we have to reteach ourselves how to be with food, and that's obviously what I do with women. But for the general audience that's listening, it's just stay close to nature, that's not that you can't ever have processed foods. They have their purpose, they're convenient and whatnot, but listen to your body. When I eat this food, do I feel energized? Do I feel satisfied? Do I feel healthy? How does my body respond to it? That's typically going to be the best guide for you as you go through life, to always be checking in with yourself, tune out the noise, tune out all the diet advice, take it with a grain of salt. I'm not saying it's not valid. Obviously, I work in the nutrition industry, but no matter what anybody else is telling you, whether it's government nutrition guidelines or a weight loss guru or a health guru, or even me, when I work with a client, I'm always going to come back and say, I can give you advice, but ultimately it's going to be between you and your body. What is the best way of eating for you?
That's really sound, very balanced advice. That's really good. Yeah, and I think a lot of the issues we get to with food, a bit like the whole thing, that the crux of what we're talking about as well, of valuing who we are as individuals. It's when we compare ourselves, or we hear, they're having this food, I need to have that. And if it's not, obviously you can't eat sugar all the time, but if it's not something that you get excited about, not something you enjoy the taste of, not something that actually feel like you're giving back to your body, then if it works for them, fine, but just don't feel you have to embrace it. And I really like that, what you said. It's having the courage, I suppose, to find what works for us, even if it's different to certain people. Obviously, if you're eating in too many times a day, if you're binging, or if you're drinking, maybe some people hit alcohol, some people hit sugary drinks and all that sort of stuff, then you need to draw back and get the balance of that. But yeah, I like what you said. It's find what works for you, really, isn't it? Because it's different for everyone. So well done. That's good. That means I can still drink coffee. I was hoping you wouldn't say avoid coffee, amongst other things. I am joking. For everybody that can't see me, I am smiling here, partly joking. Anyway, just as we sort of start to wrap this up, tell us, you've written a book, haven't you, which is due out some point
Yeah.
next year?
Yeah, so I'm in the process of writing it. I did a pre-launch on Amazon, which was awesome. It became a bestseller in like eating disorder and health and various categories, which was not unexpected, but also not expected. So it was a really pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
That being said, because I did it pre-launch style, I am in the process of writing it with the goal of having it done before 2022 or early 2022.
Okay.
And it's called It's Just Food. It's a guide for ambitious, high achieving women who might be stressed and emotional eating. That's the primary person I'm speaking to as I write it. And it's basically all my knowledge and wisdom from, not only my educational knowledge, but also my personal experience, and how it pertains to specifically our relationship with food. A lot of stuff like that we've been talking about on this podcast.
Sounds really good. So for people that maybe they've been listening thinking, I like what Rebecca's saying, I want to follow her more, there'll be a link to your website below wherever people are tuning in to. But also you do like a free email course as well, don't you, through your website? I had a quick look. I haven't signed up, but I had a quick look. Just to me, that would seem like the obvious next step for people to sort of get more involved, find out more about what you do and how you can potentially help them going forwards. Is that really the best thing? Sign up to the email course and then they'll learn, I guess, part of what we've covered here, or in more detail.
Yes, that's a great way if you want to be part of my community, is to join my email list by, doing the email course. That that might, by the time you listen to this podcast, whenever it is, that might not be my offer at the time, but if it, we'll just see. But that is what it is right now. So that would be a good way. Just go to my website if you really want to talk to me. I am, well, number one, I'm an open book. I'm a very authentic, like open type of person. I'll welcome anybody who, if you're struggling with food, whether you're a man or a woman, even though I only work in, one-on-one with women, but I'm available for men too, in terms of guiding you or giving you a resource, or a coach that specifically works with men who might be what you identify with any of the things that we've talked about. So you can email me via the email that I'll provide in the show notes, Rebecca@findfreedomwithfood.com. For anybody who would like to have a personal conversation, I am totally open to that. I'm not a person that hides behind the scenes. I really love connection, especially with the people I work with. That's why I only work in one-on-one capacity right now, because I love that deep, meaningful relationship that you can get with a client in that one-on-one. And yeah, so that's the best way to get a hold of me and be in my community.
Perfect. Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you for what you've shared today. We have only, in some ways, just scratched the surface, but just in the short time we've had together, you shared lots of different things that hopefully will switch lights on in people's minds that are listening, or, as I say, people that we know. We can then be a bit more armed to spot, actually, maybe they need a little bit of help in this, or there's ways of reaching out. I know. We're not just going to tell them they're wrong and tell them what they need to do. It's like, listen to Rebecca's podcast episode, see if that fits, see if that resonates. I think that would be really good. But it's good. The more we hear and understand and educate ourselves about some of the pitfalls of being in stressful environments, particularly in business and things, and how to overcome some of the traps, I think it's only a good thing, isn't it? For ourselves and for everybody around us. So thank you for your time and for what you've shared, for your insight on that, and the fact that I can still drink coffee. I'm really pleased with that.
I love my coffee, so I have no problem with telling you to drink your coffee.
Brilliant. Perfect. That's a perfect way to end the episode, I think, on that. No, it's brilliant. We do appreciate your time and what you shared with us today. So thank you again, Rebecca. Appreciate that.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Definitely come back as well another time and tell us more at some point when it's convenient. Maybe when the book's out and you want to talk about that more, that would be really good. For everybody listening, as we said, head to Rebecca's website. If the email course is available, sign up to that, or find out what other goodies she has available to her to help you on your journey. Sometimes we know it, as we say, but we just need that encouragement to actually put things into practice. So see how Rebecca can help you, and then how you can help other people in your world as well. So make sure you take action with something, put something into practice, or take a few moments out and think, what have I been thinking about over today? And has that made me feel better? Has that made me feel worse? What can I change? Anything around your thoughts and the way you approach them, if you need to change them, or if you're aware of certain habits you've got that aren't actually serving your best interests, then reach out and do something about it. That's the best way. Otherwise, we stay in that cycle of behaviour which doesn't serve us. That's everything for now. Thanks for joining us. We will catch you next time.